This week marked 6 months since the Israel and Hamas war broke out, and the situation in the Middle East is certainly not improving. And this ongoing conflict is starting to, well and truly now, casting a significant shadow over Joe Biden's re-election prospects. What can Joe Biden do about the situation in the Middle East?
Well, it's too late. The damage is done. And think about it, 6 months, Gabriella. He's given Prime Minister Netanyahu 6 months to deal with Hamas, which started this conflict with barbarous actions across the border from them. Given them 6 months, and they haven't been able to bring them to heel. So, what we're looking at is probably a draw, at this stage. And Netanyahu can't say that. He wants to eliminate Hamas, which may be impossible. He wants to return the hostages. And Gabriel, I'm telling you, I don't know how many hostages are still alive. I mean, all they're talking about now are bringing their bones back, as a matter of fact. So there is almost no way for President Biden to escape what's happened here, and that is he has given the Israeli government just a little too much room here to maneuver. And of course, we've now reached the point where Prime Minister Netanyahu doesn't care what Joe Biden has to say. And Joe Biden can't make the Prime Minister of Israel do anything he wants. And so what American foreign policy has shown itself to be is sterile in that part of the world. We've turned a beautiful thing that is a great ally in the area into a strategic liability. And of course, this is a great stain on the Biden administration, which is, from day one has been about human rights, human rights everywhere. And I knew there was something wrong with this administration when it turned its back one afternoon on Afghanistan and left 20 million Afghan women and girls and returned them to the dark ages without having shed a tear. I mean, this administration is just trying to get some runs on the board, and they're not doing a very good job. They blew Afghanistan, and they blew the Ukraine war, which has been lost now for about 6 months, but no one wants to admit that. And they have no control over what happens in Israel, which is going to play out, according to Israeli war plans, et cetera. Though I must say they have their own dilemmas there. And so the Biden administration, if I were going to give them a grade for foreign policy, I would give them an F. It's a complete failure. Whether Trump could have had a better policy or not, I don't know. I just judge the administration that's in the White House. And President Biden's my 14th president. And I'm telling you, I think in terms of what he wanted to do, he's probably had some pretty good motivation there. In terms of what he actually achieved, he's an F. He didn't do anything properly. And was it all his fault? Well, sometimes yes, sometimes no. But the point is, the President of the United States has very little to show for foreign policy during these last 3.5 years.
Looking at Israel, the announcement of the Israeli troop withdrawal from Gaza on Sunday came as somewhat of a surprise, despite efforts by the Israeli army and government to downplay its significance. Would you say that it does signify a shift in the war?
Well, as you know, there are all kinds of interpretations about the removal of that battalion. The number one reason is, rest and refitting. You have to rest these men and women. You have to refit what they're doing, and they're probably gearing up for a return to Rafah anyway, as a matter of fact. Other people say it was a signal to Hamas that the Israelis are ready to deal on the hostages, that it was a sop to the American government to look like they're moving in their direction because, Biden's lost the Islamic vote. He's lost the Arab vote in Michigan and in places like Minnesota, and he ain't going to get them back because these government, the Americans and others, even in the Israeli society, who see this as a disaster, are not going to forgive their governments. So we got Netanyahu trying to hang on for his life, and he's promised, the return to take over Rafah. And of course, the Americans don't want this to happen. They don't want militarization. They don't want Israel back in Gaza when this is over. I can't imagine who's going to replace them. And of course, as I like to say over and over again, Gaza is a dead man's zone. Commerce and finance is gone, education's gone, labor, health is gone, and the future of 2 million Gazans is gone. Just look at your package here. There's nothing left. And who's going to pick up the bill here? I can't imagine who's going to replace this place? I mean, who's going to replace the damage, and how long it would take? And of course, when you kill all these children, 30, 40,000 kids are probably dead there. You can't just say that they are collateral damage because you see them on your evening screen. I know other wars have killed lots of innocent people, but I'll tell you what, there's only so much you can see on your evening television screens without getting sick. And so I think a lot of the world is sickened by this. Doesn't make either side right or wrong. I mean, they're fighting these ancient things. My concern, though, is what is Iran doing in the background? I reckon that Iran has been handling this or began this war on October 7th. I read it through a Persian translation that the Revolutionary Guard was taking credit for the Hamas attack on Israel, saying that it was in response to a retaliation for President Trump taking out General Soleimani on a road back from Baghdad to his hotel. And so, Iran's behind all this because Hamas and Gaza, they don't produce guns and they don't manufacture anything. Everything has to come from somewhere else. And so we have this government in Iran that's been calling the shots.
We have to leave it there. Professor Joe Siracusa, political analyst at Curtin University. Thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. We appreciate it.
Thank you.